Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, as promised, I finally got Johnny Ward back in here. If you guys don't know, Johnny Ward's a friend of mine, and he's also the author of the book Gridlock, From Prison to Purpose. Johnny spent a few years in the Texas prison system, and there he was able to acquire his master's degree. He's become an accomplished author. He is now going to be an adjunct professor, and this man is well on his way to being a great success in life. And Johnny, I'm just really happy to have you back in here. It's been a long time. How long have you been out now?
It'll be 2 years in October.
Really? Man.
Yeah.
Already.
Well, it's good to finally meet you, man.
It's been a difficult journey.
I bet it has.
And you would think ultimately that as far as the system goes, as far as parole goes, as far as society goes, that they would be all for men that get out and try to reinvent themselves.
Rehabilitation is what it's all about, right?
So, yeah, it seems like that's a deal.
But the reality is, over the last 2 years, I've been dealing with a lot of issues based on the size of the system. Because it's so sized that they've been dehumanized to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. For example, I was arrested for no reason. I was placed in jail. Then once it was found out that I didn't do anything wrong, I was released.
Right.
And the parole system didn't even offer a, hey, sorry about that. Hey, it wasn't your fault.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're always placed in a position of being wrong. And that was an eye-opener for me. It was an eye-opener for me to go in front of the parole commission, even though I had people on my side, people like you, Hank Bad. I had, a lot of my old professors. I had spoken at Houston City Council meetings as far as like gang intervention and things of that nature, publishing a book,
right?
Having a page, being on different just all these different, speaking through universities throughout the country. It was an eye-opener to sit there in front of the parole commission, and they knew nothing about me.
Yeah. So the book is Gridlock, and I can't wait to read it. I hear it's out on Amazon, right?
Yes, sir.
So I know you guys go way back, and I've watched your original podcast, which is very interesting. I would recommend that people go back and look for that. It's got a lot of information. But can you break it down for people that don't know who Johnny Ward is? What happened and what brought you here? I know you overcame a lot, and you got your master's while incarcerated, right?
Yes, sir. So, well, for me, I was when you think about the prison, when you think about prison, when you think about people that are incarcerated, you think about people that commit crimes. You often link it to socioeconomics, people from lower socioeconomic areas, people that are poor, and so I was one of those individuals. I came from a broken home, a lot of drug use, a lot of abuse. I grew up in shelters. I grew up homeless. I had no stability in my life. When I was 21 years old, I was shot by a police officer. I was placed in prison. While in prison, I was around the same men that I was out on the street. Education never seemed like something that would be beneficial in my life, and it never seemed like anything that I would be able to attain. But while incarcerated, I was able to receive a GED, and then an associate degree, and then a bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree. And with all that education, it kind of opened my eyes to the environment that I was in, and how, as far as the prison environment, not only the prison environment, the environment that I grew up in, and how that impacted me. Being that it was such a small program, because when I completed my master's, there was only 6 of us. So that put me in a real unique category of not only being able to filter the environment that I was in, but being able to filter it through this higher education.
And that was 6 of you in all of Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's an accomplishment.
Wow. Are there limits to who's allowed to participate in that program?
I think there's financial limits.
Uh-huh.
Like even for me, I had no support, so I really didn't have any, finances to get into this program. But Dr. Powers, he was the director of the program, and he seen something in me, and he basically he gave me enough grant money to complete, all of these degrees. And so without him and without some of my other professors, I would have never got to the point, that I've been able to get to. So I think that's what a lot of it is. You know, a lot of times people in society, they think, why don't these guys go to school? Or why don't they, you know, do something productive with themselves? But the reality is the finances aren't there.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
All comes down to the money.
And also, I mean, just the prison system itself doesn't offer the opportunities that you think it would, at least not to everybody, from what I can tell.
well,
I mean, I know you can get a GED, and I know you can get some job training.
Vocational, probably.
Yeah, but it's all vocational. It's all lower end jobs, and then the part that I think is the worst part is that you never get to shake that. You never get to shake the fact that you're a convicted felon. It's not like you do your time and it's done, and you get out and you go on about your life and do what you do. You never really get to shake it because it's on applications. It's everywhere, and then if you're monitored, you're monitored. So I mean, you know, you just don't really get a fair shake afterward, and so it's kind of hard to reintegrate.
and,
you know?
and I think what it is too is since there's this stigma associated with people that are incarcerated, even when we earn degrees, they think that, you know, these degrees were given to us, right? That we had the easy way out. They were just trying to, but the reality for me is and I see that now when I go to university classes. So these 10 years that I was in school, I mean, for 5 years, I didn't even watch TV. And basically everything that I studied, everything that I read, a lot of it I had to do on my own. So I'm locked in a cell. I didn't have a computer, or I didn't have spell check, or I didn't have Grammarly. I didn't have professors that I could email and tell them that I had a problem. So I had to work.
And it's a lot of shit in there.
Yeah.
You know, you can't concentrate.
Yeah,
Oh,
you have a whole cell block of people yelling at football games, and you're there with earplugs, and you're studying literary theory, and you're writing 25-page papers, and you know you're having to write them 3 times, and you're trying to concentrate. And who are you going to ask questions? So it can get frustrating, you know. But at the end, for me, the only hope that I had was in education, right? And even then, people tell you like, I don't know why you're getting a degree. It's not going to help you when you get out of here. You're still a felon. But there was something inside of me that said, hey, this is all you have, and this is what you need to soak your energy into. And hey, if this is, and maybe one day it'll be a benefit. And so like what I was saying, sometimes I go into university classes now and I speak on whatever topics they're speaking out. And, you know, I discuss theory and I discuss vocabulary, and I start asking a lot of the students, you know, the questions that they should know, right? And a lot of times they don't know. And so it kind of highlights the time that I spent dedicated to a lot of this material and the reality of a lot of university students.
Right.
And that's why a lot of my professors, they love their incarcerated students because they know that they're going to give them material, they're going to give them text, and they're going to go through it, and they're going to study it, and they're going to, and so.
They want to soak it up.
Yeah, and then we get out, and, you know, for me, I was on fire. There's all these things that I wanted to do. But once I got out, I was placed on GPS monitor, and I didn't understand why. I mean, I never got in trouble in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school. I did everything a model student. I taught for 10 years within the prison system, so I did everything a model student should do. And then I get out here, and I'm placed on this GPS monitor, so it limits me. I get invited to events in California, invited to events in New York, and I can't go because of the stipulations on my parole. Because they're trying to protect society from what I don't know.
Yeah. How long were you in?
So I did 11. I did 4.5 years the first time, and I did 11 and a half years the second time. And so
what's the remainder you have to wear the monitor before?
2019, and that was interesting too, because the reason that I went to prison the second time is I was going through a nasty divorce. Excuse me. Me and my ex-wife had a son. She had been using drugs before she found out she was pregnant. She stopped using drugs, and I just couldn't. I had been through so much, and I was just self-medicating, and I was just in a bad place in my life. Excuse me. And so one weekend she asked if she could. One weekend she brings over our son. The next weekend she's supposed to bring him over, and she doesn't. And I tripped out. You know, I had already lost so much, and I didn't want to lose my little boy. And I kicked her door down because I wanted to see my son. Mind you, I didn't hit her, or I didn't. So I sat there till the cops got there, and the cops were like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I want to see my son. That's what's going on." Then, you know, I named this guy.
Right.
And so they ended up giving me 20 years. And so I get 20 years behind that. A year after I'm released from from parole, I've made all these strides in the first year, right? Writing a book and having a page and doing all these instrumental things in my life just to read it and to show him that and show my other children, just because you make a bad choice, that doesn't mean you can't change the direction of your life. Well, my ex-wife contacts the parole board. So after a year that I get out, I'll be eligible to see my son again. So I got out in October. 2 weeks before my eligibility date, my ex-wife calls parole and says that I contacted her and that I threatened her and this and this and that. So they locked me up. I had no idea why they locked me up. I'm sitting down at the Harris County Jail. I don't know why I'm there. You know, the morning that they locked me up, I was supposed to be giving a presentation at the University of Illinois over Zoom. I had no clue. So once I find out what happened, you know, a few weeks later, they tell me, I'm like, well, I've never contacted this woman. And so she goes to the hearing and she admits that he's never contacted me. He's never said a word to me. He's never. And so by then I was in tears. I couldn't understand how I did everything that I was supposed to do. And all it took was one person to say that I did something.
Just her word at a passionate moment, and that yanked their chain and to lock you.
Locked me up for 6 weeks.
There should be charges filed against her.
And so they let me out of jail. And, you know, I go back home. But by then I feel like I'm in a vulnerable type state. Because in my past, I can do things wrong and end up in jail. But if you're doing everything right, and you end up in jail, and it kind of crushed me. And so after that, for this last year, I've kind of been dealing with my own kind of issues, you know, trying to work through that. And then my parole officer at the time, I hadn't even met her before. The first time I ever met her was at county jail. And she was just lie about everything. She even lied on my other parole officers. And because we moved out here to Dayton, Texas,
Right.
just to get away from her.
Right.
So she tells me that she put in for my transfer, but she's waiting on the Dayton office. So my wife is like, well, we haven't heard anything. She calls the Dayton office, and Dayton's office like, she's never put in for any type of transfer. We don't have any type of paperwork on you.
Yeah, and that was kind of typical of your whole time with her, though.
Yeah.
You know, that's too bad.
And the only reason
Just part of a broken system, I think. You know, maybe not an individual fault on her behalf, but just part of a larger problem.
The bureaucracy
just
can't get out of its own way.
Exactly. Just you know, and I wish there was a way you could extricate yourself from all that, you know. And I think over time you'll be able to, but it's so damn hard, you know what I mean? And yeah, that kind of thing should not have happened, man. I'm sorry that it did. It sucks, you know.
And that takes it back to, like, as humanity, as people, as society, like, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to make, you know, full functioning citizens that are incarcerated and help them reintegrate into society? Or is it more about economics and the money that we get for these people yearly? You know, is it about a system that, because if they close down prison, there's going to be a lot of people that lose their jobs. I don't know if you know this, but within the prison system, there's a lot of different factories. Like when you go to the courthouses throughout Texas, I mean, who do you think makes all that?
Mm-hmm.
Makes the courthouse, makes gavels. Who do you think makes these when you go to schools? Who do you think makes the desks and the chairs?
Buses.
Yeah, who do you think makes all that?
The
Inmates.
unpaid labor of convict labor.
It's the new Jim Crow. You know, and I remember that. Being an undergrad and being a graduate student, I can remember being out in the fields all morning, and there's a guy, you know, a few feet away from me with the 357, and there's a guy a few yards away from him sitting on a horse. They're both sitting on a horse with a 30-30, you know, and I'm digging out potatoes, or I'm popping tops on carrots, and so this is, and it's real. You know, there's a whole line of us, you know, and we're taking it down to the dirt. We're out there with some old Aggies, and you're just hopeful for that 15-minute break where you can go get some lukewarm water. Mm-hmm. You know, you can work, you know, 8-hour, 10-hour days, and the only thing you can be grateful for is just a shower, because you're not getting paid.
Right.
You know, and then it's off to school, and then I go to school, and we're talking about these systems. We're talking about oppression, right? We're talking about a slave labor, and so it just makes you look at what you're going through and the system for what it is. And now I have more education than the guards. I have more education than the warden, right? And so then it makes, so when I talk to these individuals, you know, I understand where they're at in their life, because a lot of it's not what they know, it's who they know. You go out through the prison system, from the major to the assistant major to the warden to the assistant warden, they've seen each other through the ranks, from CO to sergeant to lieutenant to captain. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. You know? But here we are 100 years later, and the system still operates. It's larger now. It's grown 400% in 40 years. It went from 13 prisons to 113.
Right.
Yet crime hasn't increased, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so,
the United States incarcerates more people in the world than any other country. You know, I mean, we just do. And there's a reason for it. And it's got to be an economic reason. I can't think of any other reason than that. Because crime rates are the same, like in Britain and other places like that. They're the same as they are here. Except they don't incarcerate that many people. We just love to incarcerate people in this country. We've been doing it for years. I don't see it going away. You know, the prison guard... what is it called? God, I hate it when I lose a word. They're all part of a union. The prison guard union is one of the biggest lobbyist union in the country. They have millions of dollars to lobby Congress. They do it all the time. So we build more prisons than we do educational institutions. And I don't think that trend is going to change.
and why do you think that? Do you think they want guys like me speaking out about the prison system? They don't.
Right.
Why would they? Especially with education, right?
Right.
It's one thing to say, hey, this guy, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. No, but I have the degrees that back me up, right? And I think that's what a lot of it is. It's like if we educate these men, right, then they're going to highlight everything that we're doing in here. Just like when I went for my undergraduate bachelor in behavioral science, you know, after 10 years, like as far as punishing somebody, it's of no benefit. After 10 years, it's a scientific proven fact that after 10 years, that there is no longer any
Right.
benefit of punishing somebody.
Yeah, long-term incarceration doesn't work. It never has. You know.
And now you're seeing things like I mentioned earlier, like post-traumatic prisoner disorder, right? And I can attest to that. I mean, you're being dehumanized, you're being degraded, you're being mistreated, you're being, you know, objectified for this mass amount of time, and then you're not giving, like, for example, I didn't know how to send an email when I got out. I didn't know how to send an email. I didn't know how to work a smartphone. There's a lot of things that I did not know how to do. I didn't know how many minutes to warm up a hot cup of water in the microwave, because for 11 years, those weren't possibilities for me. And so I get out even with all that education, but I'm still limited.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm having to
makes
ask my
sense.
13-year-old daughter, hey, can you do this for me? And for at the time, a 40-year-old man, 41-year-old man, I mean, that placed you in a place for your life where you, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Right.
And so these men get out of prison, and they don't have these basic kind of learn how to do these basic things while they're incarcerated. They get out, but society's like, man, why don't this guy just get out and get a job and just do well and just. But the reality is, for a lot of men that get out of prison, they're like, where am I going to get a pair of socks at? Where am I going to get a T-shirt at? Where am I going to live?
How am I going to get a driver's license?
How am I going to get
How am I going to
transportation?
buy a car to go get a job? Right.
Yeah.
Behind the 8 ball on a lot of different counts.
Right. And then you have a GPS monitor, and you have to get permission to go anywhere to do anything.
And if that thing doesn't work right, you better not go anywhere, right?
Yeah, no, recently.
I know.
Yeah, that thing was less. Huh?
And the classes.
Oh, I had a lot of classes. So when I got out of prison, they said that I need to go to substance abuse classes. So I had to go to 7 classes a week, 7 2-hour classes a week. So I went to 7 classes, right?
And you're required to go to them.
Exactly. I had to see a counselor. I had to see my parole officer once a week. So I had to make like 8 different. I had to see these people 8 different times. When did I have the opportunity to work?
Right. Yeah, again,
And I had to pay
failure.
them.
But, you know, I think the biggest problem with all this is that there's so many inmates and there's so many prisons. It's all interconnected. There's so many facets of the institution and facets of the system that you get lost in it. You're no longer a human. You're, you know, inmate number blah, 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 blah. And so none of those are viewed on an individual basis. You know, it's like last time we talked, I think you were telling me that the parole office, or that consists of three directors, and that's it.
3 directors, and they do a yearly. I think it was 60-something thousand, which leaves a minute and 47 seconds per
Yeah,
case
to review your case.
To review a case.
Yeah. So how can you expect to be treated as a human being when the system isn't set up for that? And I think that as long as we see that, we're going to keep seeing things like this. You know, because I know for a fact, if they were to sit back and interview you on an individual basis and get rid of all the other cases in their head and just see Johnny Ward, say, okay, what are you doing? What have you been doing? You know, what's your history like for the past 10 years? You wouldn't be monitored right now. You'd be on parole, yeah, but you wouldn't be monitored, and you'd be able to do what you need to do and what you want to do. You know, and it should be that way.
So about the book.
Yeah.
All right. So how the book came about is so I get out and I'm still
So you wrote the book after you got out or while you were in?
after I got out.
Okay.
So
The book is Gridlock.
yes, sir. So
Yeah,
when
awesome
I was at the house and I'm frustrated, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. I'm still having all my friends that are writing me. A lot of them already have master's degrees. Some of them were working on their bachelor's at the time. And I needed to be able, I wanted to give them an opportunity to share their stories and just give a voice to those still behind the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to write this anthology, and it was 13 different incarcerated scholars to share their stories, maybe some things that are instrumental in their life, some points in their life where they've had an epiphany or impacted them in such a great way.
Right.
And they all contributed. And then I wanted to write about my own re-entry back into society, so I dedicated a chapter to that. And then I also wanted them to be able to just show off their creative writing skills, so I added another chapter, you know, as far as like poetry and stories and things of that nature. And then I also wanted to put a chapter as far as like things that are people that are still incarcerated, like useful tools that they could use to help them throughout their incarceration. So I put in like some re-entry information. I put in some like a book list and things of that nature. So the point of the story was to kind of just give an overall kind of helpful type message to the guys that are not only incarcerated, but to the guys that got out.
Right.
And since then, I mean, my book's been picked up. The New School University out of New York just did a reading, and that's a real prestigious university out of New York.
Right.
They did a whole reading. They had a director come all the way from Turkey to do it. It was about an hour and a half. It came out really well. They're making it required reading at some universities, and so like the University of Illinois is using it. University of Clear Lake, which is my university, they're using it. And but it's just been interesting to see how you can go all the way, even in California, all the way from California to New York, that these educators are picking up this material and reading it, you know, and making it a required reading in some of their coursework. Because oftentimes you have educators talking about the system, but they've never been there.
Right.
And then you have inmates, they're trying to articulate what they're going through there, but they don't have the credentials, so therefore the people in academia are like, okay, it hasn't been peer reviewed, so okay, we can utilize this.
Right.
But now they have something that all these guys have credentials, and kind of discussing this
And
stuff.
you mentioned while we were chatting before we started shooting this that you had some invitations and you can't get there.
Now, hopefully I'll have one on the 23rd. Hopefully I'll be going to Austin, and they're having a conference there, and I'll go in there and I'll be able to talk about bringing Pell Grant. It's like another guy named Brandon Warren. He was in prison. Now he's a professor. He just received his doctorate. Real good guy. But he's invited me to Austin to talk about more Pell Grant opportunities.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll go through on the 23rd, but it's 3.5 hours. I can only get 8-hour windows. So it's 3.5 hours to get there, 3.5 hours to get back. So I mean,
Wow.
I'm gonna talk to
It's
my
a tight ass schedule.
So I'm gonna see what we can work out. Hopefully they'll let me go. But yeah, I've been invited all over the place. They want to ask me to go to New York, and they want to do a filming. Some different actors, they want to do a filming because it's like a real big thing right now.
Right.
But I'm limited, and it kind of wins me because I've never even been out of Texas. I've only seen Texas out of the back of a prison bus.
Right.
I'm 42 years old, man. And I've never, and so I get these opportunities, and yeah, I want to leave the state,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
but because of parole, you know, it's like it's all policy.
Yeah. And how long is the parole going to last before it?
I get off 2019, but my major setback is this parole, this ankle monitor. So what happened is when my ex-wife lied on me, that was the month I was supposed to be getting off.
Yeah.
Off monitoring or out of parole?
Off monitoring.
Okay.
And so because of her doing that, it sent me all the way back to the beginning. Even though I didn't do anything wrong, it sent me all the way back to the beginning.
So how long will you be on parole, though?
2029.
2029?
I mean, yeah, 2029.
Damn, long time.
Another 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing everything you can do.
Yeah.
You know what was exciting this week is, so during that time I was supposed to start teaching at UHCL too. Well, since I've been out, one of my professors, Dr. Subramani, and she's really been, because now I work at a church part-time where some of the UHCL faculty attend church at, the dean and some other people attend church there, or the old dean. And but she's been pushing for some type of like reentry program for all the guys that are still behind the walls. And so Tuesday I had a meeting with her, the new dean, which he was a lawyer. I didn't even know he was a lawyer, but now he's the dean of the school.
Great.
And yeah, him and Subramani, and we had a sit down with another guy named Paresh Patel. He just got out after 27 years. Real good guy. I did a lot of time with him. And so we're pioneering a reentry program for the guys that are getting out of prison. Not only reentry, but for the guys that want to teach. They're going to be able to get out, get mentored by some of the UHCL faculty, and help them get into the academic world. So that's pretty cool that the university is behind us like that.
Yeah, and as much as the bureaucracy is kind of standing in your way and being a roadblock, it looks like you got some really good opportunities sprouting up along the way that's going to help a lot of other people too.
That's always been my main objective, is to help other people. And so knowing that those guys, because you get these degrees behind the walls and you know if you can do anything with them, but knowing that these guys are still there and they're seeing all this progress, it just makes them even work even harder for the degrees that they're getting.
Right.
And for the university, like my university is behind me 100%. The University of Houston Clear Lake, like it's just awesome. Just to see all the different heads and all the different deans and the president and Ira Blake, and what they want to do is they're hoping that by introducing this program, it'll not only show the benefit of higher education in prison, but it'll also highlight a lot of the issues that are going on within the system. Because that's what my university is about, right? Mm-hmm. It's about helping people. Mm-hmm. It's about making a difference. So that's what they ingrain into the students. Yeah, you're getting these degrees, but what are you going to do with them?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, anyways, it was pretty awesome to sit in there with the dean, and he's a new guy and he's excited. And it's funny because my professor is like, well, tell him a little bit about yourself. So I'm telling him all of this stuff, and he's like, whoa, like this is a lot. You know what I mean? But God's been
A little overwhelming for him.
Yeah. God's been really good for me.
So what do you think has been the most profound thing that you've noticed being out and being back in society again?
As far as society goes?
Yeah. I mean, just because I know life in prison had to be completely different. It was way more structured. You had, you were, and at one point you told me you weren't even able to make any decisions for yourself at all. I mean, so.
There's more of a sense of community in prison.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because,
there's more of a sense of community in prison? Wow.
It's like being in war. Like, you have the soldiers that are next to you.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do. No matter the situation, because you've been with the 100 situation, you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You know who you can rely on, who you can't.
It is a brotherhood of a sort.
Yeah. And then you come out here, and everybody's, your friend to an extent. And it's not their own fault, it's because everybody has lives. Everybody has responsibilities, everything. And you kind of miss that. Mm-hmm. The camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because within that, the men that I was around, we all worked out together and we went to school together. And so if you were having a bad day, somebody would, say something, cheer you up, or say something positive. And so you had that constant feed of energy. Where you come out here, you can find yourself sitting alone, you know what I mean? And then the weight of the world, you know what I mean?
Right.
Sure.
And half the people you come across, they find out you got you're an ex-con, and they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want to hear anything you got to say.
And so you kind of have to deal with that. But like I tell my daughter all the time, the ones that stick with you are the ones you need to worry about. And the ones that don't have anything to do with you, you need to be glad that they don't have anything to do with you.
Right. So does the quiet still bother you? I remember we talked in the first podcast, and you said quiet was freaky because when it got quiet in prison, something was about to pop off.
I think to a degree it's still... There's a lot of things that prison makes you hypersensitive.
Yeah,
you read people's faces.
Yeah.
And so a person may not even be having a bad day, but you look into their face and you feel like they are, and you take on that. Like it's really traumatic. I didn't realize it, but I'm starting to realize it more and more and more, like how bad that place impacted me.
Yeah.
And then to have every day living like every day your freedom is threatened, for no reason.
Right.
Like the other day, my monitor box stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no control over that. And my PO tells me, well, if you go to jail, you're just going to go to jail for 24 hours. No big deal.
It's no big deal to them. Jail sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 24 hours
because
is
of a malfunction of a piece of equipment or something.
Yeah, and so I told her, ma'am, you're right. It is no big deal for you or somebody that's never been, or me. I've been involved in the criminal justice system, but my children, they're not used to their dad getting snatched away for no reason. And then the last time when they picked me up, there was 20 officers at my house with riot gear, with guns.
A damn SWAT team.
Yeah. And my daughter's right by the front door. We open the door. She's on TV for Zoom for school. So I open the door. There's all these guys there. She starts screaming. You know what I mean? She doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I asked the cops, do you know why they're... They don't even know why they're there. They don't know why I have a warrant. They just know that I have a warrant.
Right.
They know that I'm a felon, so it's necessary for... I'm in a robe and house shoes, and they show up 20 deep. If they would have called me, I would have went down there. I wouldn't have wanted that around my kids.
Right.
But the thing is, it impacted everybody. But they don't... And so this...
And that just goes back to, that what they're seeing on paper. On paper, you're a violent offender, this, that, and the other. It's got a bunch of numbers, a bunch of stats, and that's all they're seeing. They really don't know Johnny Ward. They don't know if they'd have called you to go down there.
I would have went down there. Yeah, I would have went down there. It's like if I got a parking ticket, I don't want anything. I got too much going on. We just bought a house, and I got a few dogs. We got too much going on for me to, just tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it.
Yeah.
But and then I think about how many other men have been how many other men don't have support, or don't have the education, or don't have the ability to be able to speak out on these things.
Right.
And they end up back in prison, and society looks at them. They're like, man, no wonder he went back to prison. Yeah. He didn't know how to follow the rules, or he didn't know how to do the right thing.
Right.
But there's a whole storyline behind that.
Everybody's got a story.
Yeah, it's saddening. And don't get me wrong, I call people out on all this all the time. When I'm in the county jail, I'm calling the officers out. You know what I mean? When the new dude put this thing on my leg, I'm calling him out. I'm calling whatever, my POs, I'm calling them out. Whoever I can give them the information to, and now you have the information, what do you think? You know what I mean? Now you can't act like you don't know. This last guy who's from Montgomery County, he put this anklet on my wrist, this new one. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people that are in prison are from marginalized groups. Right? Mm-hmm. Lower socioeconomic, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of blacks. Well, he's a black guy, so I'm telling him, hey, do you even know who's in prison? I mean, you're here to serve and protect, but do you even know who you're incarcerating?
Right.
It's the new Jim Crow. I mean, what side are you on? Because people try to simplify the argument. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where he tried to say, well, if you're in a car with 4 guys and one of them have dope and you go out, you know, and you all go to jail for dope. Whose fault is it? I'm like, well, you're kind of simplifying the argument, aren't you?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, your minorities are in the car. That's who's in the car, more than likely, if you look at statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're incarcerating your own people. And why are your own people being incarcerated? Why? Because of lack of opportunities, of lack of education, socioeconomics. See, now that's what we're talking about. But it's real easy to say, hey, right or wrong, but the reality is that it's more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to...
Yeah, that's a complex.
That's too much
problem, for
thinking.
Sure. Right.
I don't want to think that much. I just want to go to work, right?
Right.
Get paid, lock people up, and... Anyway, but getting back to this, I'm gonna try to stay positive. But getting back to UHCL, I mean, they're doing some. So now I'm gonna look into PD, post-traumatic prisoner disorder, and it was saddening. I was actually with my wife, and I was out on the porch, and I'm going through a difficult time. And at the end of the article, it talks about that being incarcerated. A lot of times, it leads to either drugs, reincarceration, or death. And so I think about not only myself and the things that I've been going through, but I'm thinking about the impact on like other citizens, other individuals, that when they get out and they feel like they're pressed up against the wall.
Right. And their families, you know?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't only impact you, it impacts everybody around you.
Yeah.
You know?
If you look exactly
Right.
right. If I'm tensed and I have a lot of anxiety and I'm going through things because I'm dealing with all this parole stuff, I mean, of course my family's gonna feel.
Sure.
My kids are gonna feel impacted by that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like, and that goes back to like, as a humanity, as a whole, as a society, like, what is it that we're trying to do?
Well, rehabilitation isn't working because, I mean, that may be the stated goal, but the recidivism rate is, what, about 70%?
It's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up there.
Well, all right. So if you take the term rehabilitation, to rehabilitate means to return to working form. A lot of guys in prison
Didn't start off from that.
Exactly. And then when you think about the rehabilitation programs in prison, I've been through them and they're all a joke. Even when I went through the substance abuse, my undergraduate degrees, I have a bachelor in behavioral science, so that's brain and behavior, substance abuse, abnormal behavior, social psychology. I mean, just a whole list of undergrad work as far as behavior goes. So I go through this substance abuse program for 6 months, and it's all a joke, and they don't want me to say anything.
Of course not.
Because I'm going to highlight what they don't know.
Right.
Right? Let me
Right.
keep this guy pacified and keep him over here. And every now and then you get one brave enough to say, hey, Ward, you come up here and teach something or show something, and I will. But the simple fact is they don't want to have to do more work than they have to.
Right.
And if they can get by with going in there and telling old dope stories and why they shouldn't do them, then that's what they're going to do.
You're right. Yeah, check all the boxes and get the next class in here and keep that paycheck coming.
It's amazing. What's amazing to me is that you have these people in their positions of authority that they allow that. You know what I mean? They allow that. It's like leaders, they kind of hold the standard, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just to let these dudes get. I mean, even if you're building something, right? The contractor's gonna come by and it's like, hey, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. We need to redo this, right?
Right. No oversight.
Yeah, but when these guys come, it's if we can get away with it. If they don't say anything, we're not going to say anything, and they're not going to say anything. Why? Because their freedom's on the other end.
Right.
Sure.
That's
I want to say something. So they required that I had to go to classes too, and this was before they released him. And it's first come, first serve. So I had to drive all these hours, stay in a hotel, get up early to get to the class, and then to listen to the people talk about their personal relationships and how many shoes she has in her closet, just to get my name on the paper to say I attended.
Right.
But they didn't teach anything.
Just a paper mill.
It was to have my
File the
name on
papers.
paper.
Yeah.
check the boxes.
Yeah, it's really not surprising. So I know you were working on a second book. How far are you into that one?
I already.
And have you got a title yet?
Yeah, it's The Awakening. The reality is I have all the material for the book already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just with this new house and everything that we have going on and everything that has been going on, I just kind of just have it in Word sitting there.
Yeah, as long as it's there.
Yeah, that's what
you can always pick it up.
Yeah, I can always string
So
it
that's
together.
great. Well, I did read Gridlock. Actually, I think I read through most of it twice. Really a great book. And everybody who wrote in it was really great, you know. And so I thought it was put together really well. And if you haven't read it, buy it. By the way, how's sales been going on the book?
Man, I don't even. To be honest with you, man, that's like I don't even pay. I didn't realize buying a new house and buying property.
Oh,
and
yeah, there's a lot
I didn't
to it.
realize there was so much work going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like it's never ending. We got dogs. Man, my dogs got out and killed 6 of the neighbor's goats the other day, and then killed 6 of my wife's roosters. I had to build a kennel.
That dog's
And then-
going to get locked up, man.
Yeah. And I didn't think they had it in them because they were big puppy. He's actually in the book. I wrote a story about how I got him, right?
Uh-huh.
But man, he's a mess. I guess they just have something in him.
Yeah.
And so between building kennels and working on my shop, and we still having a big old RV I ain't even looked at yet. Big old fifth wheel. I mean, this thing is huge, man. I've never been in an RV in my life. I go in this thing, it had an upstairs.
No way.
Yeah.
Does it?
An RV with an upstairs.
Yeah, we
Wow.
got a big pond with catfish and.
In the RV.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, when I prayed and I asked God for a house, I asked the God just give us a house big enough so my kids could all have their own rooms. And so then we get this house.
I asked for more.
Yeah, and then we
I got it.
and then we get to this house and it has a shop and an RV and a pond, and it just blew me away.
Nice, man.
But now I'm having to work.
Yeah. A lot of maintenance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
I understand.
So now I'm staying busy. I told Jonathan the other day, because he's out there and we're building this kennel, and he got this big old hat on, and we both got rubber boots on, and we're building that kennel. I said, hey, Jonathan, we're building a kennel for our hunting dogs because they killed 6 of the neighbor's goats. I said, we sound a little country now, ain't we?
Yeah, right. Green Acres. So Gridlock, the book, is available on Amazon and where else? Can
Man,
people find it?
I'd be surprised. I don't know how Amazon does their marketing, but it seems like this book is everywhere. But I would.
I think they market in other areas.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Anchor and stuff. You put it in one place and it ends up in 50. So, yeah.
But I would buy it just to be safe. I would just buy it off of Amazon.
Right.
That'd be the best.
Start
place
there.
Yeah.
Right.
And it'll pop right up too.
Yeah.
It'll pop right up.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, I need a.
So when does your educational thing start where you start teaching? When does it start?
In the fall.
In the fall?
So that's next month.
And you're teaching humanities, I guess?
It'll be. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a humanities course.
Okay.
The professor they had me lined up with, I haven't looked at the roster, the teaching
That's
roster.
U of
yet.
H, right?
UHCL. So it's
Wow.
But once
And
I
you'll be on site as opposed to Zoom, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's good.
So that's what would have been kind of good too, because I didn't want to teach on Zoom. I'd rather be
Yeah.
in
hands
person.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told the dean anywhere he needs to use me, like sociology classes or other humanities classes or criminology classes, like I'll go. I know all that material.
Yeah.
So it's like wherever they want to send me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to because it might be a little bit personal, but how's your parole going? I know you got a new parole officer. You got a better person now.
Man, I got 2
You have
parole
2?
officers, and they are awesome.
Okay, great.
And I don't know if it's because they're country. And the thing about the country is you can respect hard. Most people are humble and hardworking.
Right.
But I have one named Bynum. I don't know if I should be saying that.
Yeah.
One's named Bynum and one named Frizzell, and they go out of their way to help me out in any way that they can. I mean, and
That's great.
It's been awesome.
Support counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been awesome to just be able to have that I can talk to, you know what I mean, and then respond. I can even call them on the weekends, and they're gonna answer and they're gonna try to help. And it's been.
Hey, can I get you to roll back into frame?
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's just been really, really. I tell them both all the time. You know, they've really been really helpful.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, because I know you were having a really hard time with the other guys.
I couldn't understand how can you be so respectful, yes sir, and no ma'am, and what do I need to do, and tell me, and still get, you know, just
Maybe they just have too many parolees. You know, their workload is just too big, and then when you come out here, maybe it's a little bit lighter. You know?
Yeah, maybe
and
so.
And they have a little bit more time to work with you. Plus, it sounds like these guys just understand that you're goal oriented, and maybe not everybody's goal oriented. You know, I know a lot of people try to get away with a lot of shit. You know, and since you're not one of those guys, they're not used to that. You know.
Yeah, they probably appreciate you as much as you appreciate them.
Right.
I would think.
So, what are your plans for the integration program? I mean, do y'all have anything lined out yet? Is it going to be classes, counseling, integration programs such as helping people to find places to live, get clothing, things like that, and is there any way that the citizens can help?
So,
you know?
So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jot down the major issues that I've had while reintegrating back into society. But I think there's going to be it's going to be like an alumni association, so it can be like a lot of UHCO guys can, when they get out, they'll have a group that they can go to. You know, a group of men that have been incarcerated, probably a lot of them that they already know.
Yeah,
that
people that actually understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that to have some type of resources that will help them as far as like finishing their degrees if they haven't finished their degrees, as far as like clothing goes, as far as counseling goes, just classes, like as far as basic things like emails and things of that nature, just the basic things that they need and whatever they need to help them, and also particular job, because that's what's also difficult. So you get a guy that gets out of prison and he's a bricklayer. Well, that's fine, he's a bricklayer. But if you get a guy that gets out of prison that has a master's degree that's been teaching for X amount of years, while he can lay bricks and there's nothing wrong with laying bricks, is that really suiting his skill set?
Right.
So, and that's where I'm trying to turn from Prisoner Purpose into an employment agency where I can kind of recruit and find guys that have these strong skill sets, particular jobs where they can utilize those skill sets.
Right.
So that's kind of the next area that I'm looking into.
That's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more success stories you have, the better off you're going to be, and the more attention you'll get, and the stamp of approval for getting your guys hired and moving on with their lives.
And like Neil Giese, he's one of those guys. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys.
Neil's a smart, articulate dude. I like him.
Yeah.
And he's doing well. So he's working for the glass company still, and he's
a strong teacher.
Yeah.
He's a strong.
Yeah,
I talked with this dude for years. He wrote a chapter. I mean, I know Gil. I used to work my workout buddy. I mean, I know him.
Yeah.
But he's doing that because he has to do that. But I know there's a part of him that would love if he had the opportunity. But with time and responsibilities.
Sure.
And so that I feel like that's where I come in. Right? I'll go into the places and discuss these guys. That's what I'm thinking about, maybe getting a doctorate, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that you'd go right back to, like, you'd somehow deal with guys, inmates that are still inside and that are getting ready to get out and start there, or would you just do it with guys that are already out?
No.
Or maybe both?
Probably both. I want to get to a point where I can go teach on campus at Ramsey Unit. So I can see these guys that are, because a lot of them, what's sad about it is, I still have friends that need to do another 17 years to come up.
Yeah.
And so, to be able to get in there and talk to those guys and just help them when they transition out.
Do you get to see any of those guys? I mean, are you able to go back and
not yet
and visit or anything?
Maybe when I get this thing cut off me.
Yeah.
Maybe then.
Yeah. So would you do that, you think?
Yeah.
If you got the monitor off, you'd go back and visit with some of these guys?
Yeah, I would go back and see, the thing is, a lot of times when people get out of prison, and I guess because we're men, we want to tell you about all the good stuff. How wonderful it is. Right? But I'm going to tell you the good and the bad. That way, because if I tell you the bad, you can be prepared.
Yeah.
And so when you get out here, you get out to society and things don't work out like you...
Sugarcoating never works.
Yeah. How you thought things were going to work out, then you don't feel like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Is it way different than you thought it was going to be, being out?
Uh,
I mean, when you were in and you would think about it,
yeah.
is what you experience now way different?
Yeah, especially with, everything is. Relationships with my kids, relationships with my wife, relationships with... It's, when you live in your head, everything's perfect.
Right.
Right? There's no attitudes in your head. Right? There's no bad days in your head. Right?
Yeah.
And then when you get out here, because even you can even have the best intentions and want the best for somebody. Like me with the kids. Like for me, my intentions for them is I want them to have a stable, comfortable, clean home. You know what I mean? I want it to be, a home they can be proud of.
Right.
Right? But I can't get this one to clean his room.
That's a standard kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though?
No, kid.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's like things like that. Like I want the best for you.
Yeah.
Right? I want you to be healthy, and I want you to have a clean environment. I want you to, I want you to be like the epitome of, but what you want for them, and what they want for themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't always coincide.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad.
You know what I
But
mean?
as they grow, they'll figure it out.
And I tell them too, you may not like me now, but one day you're gonna grow to like hard work. Like they
Right.
all got rubber boots now.
Uh-huh.
Well, yeah, especially since you're living out here, you're gonna need all the help you can get.
Yeah.
Believe me, I understand.
Yeah, I work them.
Yeah.
I give them water breaks and make sure everybody's. But they're gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're not liking me because of it. I'm not saying not like me. They're kind of it breaks up the routine of air conditioning and YouTube.
Yeah.
Sure.
They think they don't like you. But that's just a normal part of growing up, man. They think they know everything before they've learned anything, but they think they've got it figured out. And I think everybody sitting at this table probably had the same.
Oh, I was a horrendous kid, man. I
Oh, he
awful.
was. I knew him when he was a kid.
Yeah, we grew up together, and I was awful.
Still
Absolutely
is.
awful. Thanks.
Yeah.
He knows I'm cheating.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like Jonathan yesterday, he had been painting his room, and he'd been painting his room for like 3 weeks. Like it's this huge room, right? So I tell him, you can't go anywhere. It's not up to your mom anymore. You can't go anywhere until you finish your room, and it's up to me.
Yeah.
And so he's in the kitchen. I go in the kitchen, and he's rinsing off his paintbrush in the sink. I'm like, you should do that outside, right? I should have told him you need to do that outside, but I told him you should have done that outside. You should do that outside. So I go back in there today, and guess what? There's freaking paint all over the wall. And so but if you give them the opportunity, right? They think they got it figured out. This old dude doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
Yeah. But it's just small things like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, anyway.
When I was about 12 or 13, my mom used to write on a Saturday morning a chore list and tape it to my door. What a way to ruin a Saturday. Finally Saturday is here, and I got this thing, and it was just so hard, man. It was like, pick up your room, put the clothes in the dirty clothes, take out the trash. That's about it. It would take me all day, man. The trash was so heavy, and it was such a long walk over there. Do I really have to do number 3? Oh my God, I made it so hard on myself,
Sure.
just because you had to do that before you went out and messing around with your buddies.
Yeah. Just agony.
Yeah.
I know.
And I didn't want to be that parent. I wanted to be the parent that got out of prison, man, that was just all right with their, he's seen the worst, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't trip on anything. But it turned out that wasn't my role.
Well, that's part of being dad.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But other than that, it's getting better.
So what about your Facebook page? Are you still running that, and
I've
things
kind
still
of
going good?
I've kind of I think I'm gonna get back on it. I've kind of slid back from everything.
Just busy with the house.
Yeah, and just kind of refocusing and just
there's nothing wrong with that, man. It's okay to retreat. I do it. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of property, but what I got is, oh man, just it's like it's work. So you got to retreat every once in a while, and just kind of self-absorb, get back into yourself, become one with nature again, and it'll help. It'll help to center you.
I call it regrouping.
Yeah, and then when you come out of that, you'll be that much stronger, that much clearer, and you'll be able to get back into your purpose again and just roll.
Yeah, and that's what was happening. I got away from my purpose.
Yeah.
So that's what really happened, And so it's just being able to, because without that, I was kind of just drifting. I was
Sure.
I was making strides in some areas, but they weren't as meaningful. Because my whole thing is helping people, right? Encouraging and helping people. And if I can't do that, then really I'm like no good to anybody. That's just what I realized about myself. I function best when I'm doing for others.
Yeah.
And so when I did retreat, and when I am trying to take care of my responsibilities, it still left me in a lonely place. You know, and
I
so,
can dig it. Yeah.
and so now I feel like God has not only opened up a door, but He's like a whole position at the university to do exactly that.
Right.
So I feel like, and with that, I think everything else will kind of start to
I know you'll make the best of it.
Yeah, that's great.
pan out.
Great opportunity.
That's pretty cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. And I told the dean too. I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my university. I mean, my university's seen something. I didn't have anything. I just showed up with some aspirations, and they were like, "Hey,
Good deal.
That's a lot of. That's almost 40 grand."
Mm-hmm.
They just said, "Here, man, we trust
Yeah.
that you'll be." And they didn't do that with a lot of people.
It was a break. You deserve.
Have you heard of Jordan Peterson?
I don't think I have.
No? Okay. Look up Jordan Peterson on YouTube. I think that you really get into this guy good. He's a psychologist. He's from Canada. It's a strike against him that I'm willing to
He hates Canada.
I'm willing to deal with it. But Jordan Peterson is one of those guys that can take all the complexities of life and simplify them for just about anybody. And he's a college professor. So what he did years ago, he decided when he was doing lectures in his class to have somebody videotape those lectures. He puts them on YouTube. So a bunch of his lectures are on YouTube. You ought to think about doing something like that when you start teaching. Just have somebody film you with a cell phone or something. Start hanging that stuff on YouTube. And, that way you can reach a larger audience besides just the individuals in your class. And you can get your ideas and your information out there a whole lot better.
That's a good idea.
I think you'll have a big audience.
I'm telling you,
for that.
man, and I'll write this down for you before you leave, so you won't forget it. If you watch a little bit of Jordan Peterson, I guarantee you won't be able to sleep. You'll stay up watching this dude all night. He's awesome. I mean, he's really, really good. And I think you really enjoyed it. It's right in line with what you're trying to do. And I think you'd really get into him pretty well.
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
That is a good. That is
smart. He's probably the smartest dude I've ever listened to in my life. I mean, really, really smart.
Besides
Articulate.
me?
Sorry. He has a vocabulary. I mean, I bought his book. 12 Rules for Life is the name of the book. And literally about every half page I have to stop and go look up what this word is, what that word is. And I mean, his vocabulary is amazing. And it's helped to expand mine.
Well, Johnny Ward probably recognized those words right.
Right, yeah. And so since you already have a really expansive vocabulary yourself, you'll probably just breeze through all that kind of stuff. And so his information that he puts out, I think you'll be able to understand it and be able to use it a whole lot better. But yeah, I'll write it down for you before we split this evening.
Hey, and thank you for having me here and being patient with me.
Hey, dude, I understand your situation. I'm just glad to have you back in here. You were my very first podcast guest.
Really?
Yeah, and you guys were great, man. You and Neil both. And me and Mark actually watched that episode a little while ago before he showed up. We just wanted to brush up on it a little bit. Brought back great memories for me. And, things have really moved forward for us since then. And I appreciate you giving me that opportunity, because if you wouldn't have, who knows if I would have continued this thing at all. So you did help me in that too, And I think that's what made our friendship kind of equal, was we helped each other. So
yeah, it's
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, I was glad I was able to. I was tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel this 42.
Yeah, I bet. Wait till
You ain't seen nothing yet, buddy.
Yeah, just wait till you're 58, bro.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what's going on with my hands, right? And my back.
You ain't even close yet. Just wait.
Yeah.
Well, your book is awesome. Like I said, it's well written. The poetry in it's great. The stories in it are amazing and frightening at the same time. So, and the cool part is a lot of those are from this general area. So, I mean, I really enjoyed the read. It was a good read. I'll probably read it again before it's all said and done.
I got more stories
So
from some of it because it did so well. All the other guys they sent me, and I'm gonna reach back and it'll come. I just gotta be patient.
yeah, just be patient.
I'm gonna tell you, you don't know how difficult it is. But, I mean, it can be real difficult when you got 13 contributors and they're all contributing. So you're trying to take what they have and you're trying to take what you have
And edit it all.
and
at the same time.
you got to edit their material. You got to edit your material. You got to structure it. And now I have professors that have got involved. So my professors are like, how many word count do you want on this? And how many word count do you want on this? So you're trying to like string all this in. And I was just some guy in a dirty garage, right?
Yeah.
Was wearing my gym. I'm about to work out, so I'm gonna try to do what I can before I got it. So yeah, it was really, really. But anyway, it was worth it.
Heck yeah, it was worth it. How many people do you know can honestly say, "Hey, I wrote a book," and it's there. You can get it.
You know, let me tell you what was
There ain't many.
One of the most surprising. So when I got contacted, her name was Natalie Gross, and she works for the New School. I don't know if you've ever heard of the New School University. It's a real. I didn't know it neither. It's a major university in New York. Huge, right?
Okay.
It's well, she's like, how much she used to get paid for presentations, and I'm like, well, ma'am, I don't know the size of your school, and I never want to feel like I'm taking advantage of anybody. So is it a large school? Is it a small school? If y'all can't even afford it, I'll do it for free. Like I don't know how to gauge because I haven't been doing this long.
Right.
And she's like, well, we're a pretty large school. And she's like, well, what'd you get paid for your last one? So I tell her, she's like, well, how about if I double that? And so I get back and I contact one of my professors and I'm like, have you ever heard of the New School? And she's like, what? She's like, have you looked them up? And so I look up this school and it's this major, it's like Harvard and Brown, they're like this major, and I had no earthly clue, who this university was, but I just share that to say that, like, that was something that happened and I was just trying to be the most willing that I could be.
Right.
And, but anyway, I share that with you just to show you how amazing it's been for me as well.
It's good.
Yeah.
You ought to try to put together a TED Talk, too, when you get a chance. Yeah, those aren't very hard to do from what I've been told.
Hey, if they're not hard,
Yeah.
hey, I'm the guy.
Well, Johnny, it's really great seeing you again, man. You look healthy, you look good, and you look happy. I'm glad to see you looking happy.
Hey, I'm
So-
getting dark too, huh?
There you go. Just
They
working
get
out-
hats. I don't get hats.
Working out in the sun.
You need a hat.
I don't get a hat.
There you go. Well, yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing
All
up.
right, it's been good.
Yeah, it has been good. And so there you go. Johnny Ward back in the tank again, and I'm glad he's doing well. If you have not read this book, I'm telling you, it's a great read.
Gridlock.
And I don't care who you are, where you're from, and what your beliefs are. This book is filled with amazing stories of real people in real situations. So pick it up on Amazon. It's not expensive. It's a great book. It's called Gridlock, From Prison to Purpose. And he's got that logo there on his shirt. And it looks like the cover of the book. Fantastic book. Johnny, good having you back in. We're going to do it again. The next time you come in, I want you to tell me stories about all the people that you've been teaching and the programs that you've set up to help people. Dude, you're on your way.
Yeah.
And I know it takes time, and I know it's frustrating, but you are on your way. So just take a breath every once in a while. Look at the sky. That always seems to work out and help out. And check out Jordan Peterson on YouTube. That's it. Well, guys, if you subscribe to the channel, I appreciate it. We're approaching 300, so we're doing pretty good. We're set up for 1,000 by the end of the year, and we're going to make it. And if we don't make it, Mark told me today that he would shave his head and paint the top of it brown. So we're looking forward to seeing that. So
You don't want to miss that.
yeah, that's it. So anyway, guys, appreciate you viewing again, and we look forward to doing another one. Don't know who we got in the bucket for next time, but I'm sure it'll be something good.
I believe we have Miss Becky Shewitt and company coming in to talk about women in men's work world.
Oh, man.
That may not be the exact title, but it's women in a men's world
Are
and
they-
the crap they go through.
Are they
I
angry?
think we better just kind of ask them a question and back off and shut up. Okay? So,
All right,
thank you, people.
sounds good. And I guess that's going to do it for this evening, and we're out.